super excited to announce this Fireside Chat about selecting the right mix of Sniper and Bazooka technologies for your business. The key takeaways would be marketing principles Mamaearth deployed in its 0 to 1 journey and beyond, Sniper trends to look out for, tips and advice on striking the right balance between Sniper and Bazooka technologies. The stage is set, so let me invite Moneka Khurana, Country Head and Board Member, MMA Global India. And we have yet another very, very special guest with us, ladies and gentlemen. Varun Alagh, co-founder and CEO, Honasa Consumer Ltd. With over 15 years of leadership experience in sales and marketing roles with world-renowned FMCG brands, Varun has mastered the art of building a brand and making it profitable. While all of us know that Varun to be a vanguard of the digital-first beauty and personal care sector, what many of us not know is about his passion for mentoring fellow youth and an even greater passion for fitness. Let's put a loudest round of applause for Varun Alagh. Thank you so much for joining us today for this session.
Thank you, Ushma. Yes, I know this is the last session, but it is the most exciting one. Rather, it's the most insightful in terms of really taking away some practical learnings. And I couldn't have chatted with a better person than Varun. And I really was thinking hard about what is it that we should be talking to him about, and what is it that he would really be able to sort of help us really, he would really influence thinking for us. And after reading a lot, what I did conclude that Varun is the man to tell us about how does one select the right mix of Sniper and Bazooka techniques in our business, right? So Varun, you and I have been speaking about this. I do know you feel very passionately about this approach. And the way I want to go about it, I know that Mamaearth as a flagship brand has now crossed 1,000 crores, ready for an IPO. And there is a journey you've traveled with Mamaearth, which is your flagship brand. Of course, you have 200 other brands as well. So the point here is that through that journey, what I want to first do is really break it down and see how you dealt with your decision making, with your approach in each stage, when you went from say 0 to 1, then when you crossed 100 crores, and now when you're ready for an IPO. And then we'll talk more about what are the kind of new trends that you're trying to experiment with, what are the challenges you're facing, and leave then some tips for our audience out here, right? So let's dive straight in. So tell me that when you began the journey with Mamaearth, it is a very competitive space. Personal care is a very competitive category. We have big daddies already here with us, and there is definitely more research available, more deep pockets, and a stronger distribution network, right? So you chose to enter the category, and that was the 0 to 1 phase. How did you really go about it? What was the approach? What were your marketing principles at that stage? Can someone please help, Varun? Or maybe swap the mic?
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay.
Super. So yeah, I mean, let me start by thanking you for having me here and talking about this. And I think for me, it's been a personal journey as well, because 10 years in the FMCG world, I have been what you can call a bazooka marketer, and moving from there to becoming a Sniper marketer, and
Fantastic.
Then over time again, finding ways to use the right mix of these two, and as the brands built up, right, has been a very close journey that I've watched, right, us shaping up. And I don't think we looked as much at the competition when we were entering into starting this. It was a very close personal passion. We wanted to solve this problem for parents around us that we ourselves came across, and we were not looking at building 100, 500,000 crore brand. I know a lot of people talk about long-term visions, right? And having, certain structured, objective visions around what you wanted to do. But I think our vision was far more linked to our personal purpose, and hence it was more about, even if we are able to make a difference to 10,000 parents in this country, right, and they are happy that they have got something which they were looking for, and that would be delightful for us. Of course, the results were better than that, right? But I think that is why we never looked at competition but focused on consumer, and that is what our first lesson, and I think a driver which even today drives us to do well, is that you focus on consumer, don't focus on competition, because that's the ball which is moving much faster, and competition is far slower to respond, and consumer is far quicker to evolve, and if you focus on them, you will probably find better answers, right? But I think from a 0 to 1 journey, if there are 2 or 3 points that I'll make, is I think the first experience for us was the change in mindset from outbound to inbound marketing. And when I was starting on this journey and we were looking at how do we shape our marketing, we were also we not only had a strategy around, okay, we need to find targeted consumers, right? But we were also we also had limited funds, right, and limited budgets, right? And, now 10 years ago, and I know a lot of marketers in this room, right? 10 years ago, when you would launch a brand, right, the standard operating procedure would be choose a pilot market, right, which in India would usually be one of the south states, because you can do regional media there. And you go to one state, you launch your mix, you put in regional media, you see the response, and if it is great, right, then you roll out nationally, right? And the cost of some of this, right, be it from a perspective of the amount of media that is required to support that kind of distribution, as well as the cost of failure, right, in case something doesn't work out, right, both were fairly high, right, because of which we have seen decades of very slow innovation, right? Because the biggest strength for the industry, which was deep distribution, right, was also becoming our biggest weakness, because everything was being seen from a lens of 1 million stores, right? Can we put this in 1 million stores? Can we market it to a denominator of consumers? And hence the cost of innovation was very high. And I think the landscape that we were seeing, was a landscape where there was digital marketing and e-commerce as a distribution channel available, right? And when you merge the two, it is a true disruption for consumer brands, because now consumers in any part of the country are able to discover a proposition that they are interested in, as well as complete their transaction journey on that proposition.
Got it.
So I think the first bit in our 0 to 1 journey was applying the right kind of principles around this funnel, right, on being able to find the right consumers and convert them into our buyers. And I think the second big piece for us was, very early on we came across this communication insight that moms trust other moms, right? And that happened when we were conversing with our consumers, right? And based on that insight, we said, hey, if we had to use this insight to build our communication plans, right, how would we go about it, right? Word of mouth, again, marketers who have seen media mix modeling for decades, right, it always features almost on top, right, as the biggest driver of brand purchase. And but there were no real channels through which you could drive it, right? It was basically creating a good product and then praying, right, that people will talk about that product, right? I think the big change that was available for us was social media, and where everyone had a voice, and they could share experiences around your brands, right? And hence, for us, that moms trust other moms, we could genuinely convert it into a strategy through which we could drive word of mouth, right? And which is how we discovered this whole space of influencers. At that time, actually, they were bloggers, right? And then over time, we discovered vloggers and, continued scaling. Today, it's a buzzword, which is influence marketing. But it was finally on an insight, which is moms trust other moms, that we built that journey on. So I think those two were very critical in our 0 to 1 journey.
Wow, that was enlightening for sure. And tell me, after you crossed 100 crores, I know it's a flashback for you, but it's very valuable to those listening here. After you crossed 100 crores, what changed? How did decision-making change? How did leadership thinking change? Did anything drastically change in terms of the way you thought product, the way you thought marketing? What was it like?
So I would say 2, 3 things. One, when we were starting, and, almost every investor that we met told us that, when you hit 100 crores, and it'll be 80% offline and 20% online business. Right?
Okay.
And we were like, okay, we will see what happens, right? But let's just double down on what we are seeing the consumers do rather than what has historically happened. And we were pleasantly surprised that when we did hit 100 crores, right, it was a 99% online business, right? And which is where we got the confidence that even as we move forward, right, we are still scratching the surface, right? And hence the first thing that we did was double down on technology, data, creating our own shopping stack, creating a very strong data science team internally, and building a very strong D2C play, right, after we hit that mark. Right? So investment in that part of the organization, so that in future, as consumers evolve and as the space evolves, we are able to make the most of it, right? Was the first double down that we did. Right? And I think the second double down for us was how do we evaluate newer channels of distribution. And hence from online, we started looking at modern trade, for example, as an area where we could engage with our consumers and see if they like our mix in that space as well, right? So testing that out and building foundation of that in geographically focused sort of spaces, because we already knew which pin codes, which areas were responding the best to our brands, right? So building that foundation. And doubling down on the marketing levers which were already working, but going up the funnel. Right? And I think till that journey, we were very product focused. Right? In the journey beyond 100, we became a lot more purpose focused, right? Because we genuinely believe that brands need to build emotional connections with their consumers, and emotional connections are built when you stand for something bigger than just the products that you sell, right? You stand for why you exist rather than what you sell.
Let me just quickly dig there a little more. I think you're making a very interesting point. You're absolutely right. Millennials do value sustainability, purpose, experience over the fluff, right? And Mamaearth has done that beautifully, right? You are very eco-conscious, you are very sustainable. So tell me, like, how have you gone about, addressing the piece on sustainability for your brand?
So I think the big difference between how we have approached the whole area of not just sustainability, because different brands in our portfolio actually have different purposes, right? I mean, Aqualogica stands for providing clean water to villages which don't have that. A Dermaco stands for providing education to children. A B Blunt stands for providing vocational training to women. And, a lot of companies have been talking about this as a part of their CSR initiatives. And I think the big difference in how we have approached it is that we have made it a part of our business as usual rather than treating it as CSR. And how we have made that is that, we said it is not enough that we just talk about it. And we need to show the consumer the impact that they're making when they're transacting or dealing with a company like us, or when they're buying our brands. Right? And hence we worked on a technological backend through which, for example, whenever you place an order on Mamaearth's website, we actually send you an email, right, which has a picture, geolocation, the name of the plant that we have planted and connected back to your order.
Right.
And that experience when the consumer sees that, hi Monica, we've planted a lemon tree for you, and this is the location of that lemon tree. You click and actually Google Maps will show you the location at which the tree is planted. And just brings that experience of that purpose to life for the consumer. And I think that was the biggest thing that was missing on how you bring this whole purpose and sustainability piece to life for consumers. Because otherwise, till it doesn't become visually meaningful, right? Till they can't see the difference that they're making, it is just a statement that you're making, right, as a company. And it sort of becomes more of a PR value than actually brand value, right? And when you make it a part of your brand journey, then as the brand scales, right, the more we do of it, because we have committed to linking it back to your transactions, right? So the more transactions you do, right, the more water plants that we will install, the more kids we will teach, the more plants we will sort of plant, right? And hence, the more we grow, right, the more community benefits. So I think that's how we've kind of seen this.
That's really, really an interesting way to have learned about how sustainability is integrated into your portfolio, and that's definitely very useful. Now tell me, before I move to the next set of, kind of conversation, let me close this piece about your journey with the last bit where now you're ready for an IPO, right? You spoke very, very descriptively about how it was different 0 to 1, after 100 crores. How is it now different? You're a large corporate, you were a startup, and now you're an established brand, an established company. How is it now different? How differently do you now look at your choices in business, your investments in business?
I think 3 large differences that I would talk about is, one, the thinking has moved from a single brand to a corporate entity now.
Okay.
And, earlier, it was all about Mamaearth. And of course, we have done phenomenally there. That's the base of everything that we have learned and built as an organization, and all the skills that we have built as an organization. But as we look forward 10 years down the line, and it is more about what we want to achieve as an organization and what we want to become. And because of that, there is all kind of impacts that has, right? It has impact on your strategy, right? It has impact on how you look at organic and inorganic growth. It has impact on your geographical strategies, right? And a lot of impact just because you've chosen to define the purpose a little at a higher level. Right? I think the second large difference for us has been, we've been very strongly focused for the last 2 years on building a very strong leadership team. Right? Because great people build great companies. And as founders, we were very clear that we have to keep adjusting and redefining our roles and our views on how we build the organization as we scale. So I think it's been about getting the right people into the right roles and creating that right top management, the top 40 leaders in the organization, which we believe can take this to the next level and achieve that vision which is set out for the organization. And the third thing has been about processes. Right? And I think even in the second stage that we talked about, there's still hustle and passion which can sort of overpower processes and sustainable sort of growth. I think now in this stage, especially last couple of years, it's been a journey where everything that we know and learn, everything that we know will be useful for us as we move forward. Right? We've tried to build and deploy processes around it, right? So that the learnings that we have developed over this time, we can actually convert them into processes that anyone who joins into the organization can learn and deploy and use. So I think those 3 have been the biggest sort of areas of focus.
Wow, that totally felt like a crash course in learning how Mamaearth grew from a startup to an organization. And thank you so much for sharing it so completely. Now let me get to the next part. So this event, for example, is all about winning marketing organization, where we're trying to rethink, relearn, rebuild, right? And we're all at that stage, whether you're a new age marketer or you're an incumbent. Now, the point is that there's a lot of emerging tech, there's a lot of new media, and there are choices to be made, right? So what would you say are those few trends which are influencing your choices at Honasa? And what is it that, how are you prioritizing those choices for now?
So I think The first one that I would still talk about is using data and social listening for trend spotting. And I think that is one core trend that we have actually converted into an internal technology and product, and we use very extensively to define our innovation funnels, to define what kind of concepts and brands do we want to serve to Indian millennials as we go forward. And that's built on top of a lot of data that we collect around behaviors, searches, and crawling the web, and feed it into the product that we have built. So I think that's the first thing, which is already making a lot of difference to how we run our business. The second that I would talk about is we continue to be very strong believers of how digital and e-commerce are disrupting the way consumer brands have interacted with consumers, and we are still scratching the surface. This is going to be a much bigger phenomenon over the next decade, and especially for categories like ours, which are high level of involvement or medium level of involvement categories. So I think building even better shopping stacks, experiences which also bring our brand purposes to life, is the second area in terms of technology that we have been focusing on. The third piece that I would say is working with platforms like Facebook and Google on figuring out the right attribution modeling and how to use their advertisement ecosystems even better, because they're also evolving very quickly. And the fourth, which is the new buzzword, but we genuinely believe it'll have a lot of both application and implication to how consumer brands operate, is AI, and especially generative AI. And we are still sort of seeing it evolve, but we are very excited about what the future holds for it.
Interesting. That's also coincidentally the priorities which MMA has for this year. So we're happy to know that those are the trends that you're looking at closely. But tell me one thing, I'm sure because there's no learning curve to some of this, and it's pretty relatively new. What are the kind of key challenges you typically face when you're trying to deploy some of these new stacks?
Like I said, I think one continuous challenge, and we've been working actively on it, and we've sort of come a long way, but we still believe there is a long way to it, is the whole space of attribution. In the space of digital marketing and media, there are so many platforms that you use. But what is the platform that is really driving impact at different points in the funnel, is something which is still a bit complex, and different attribution modelings and mechanisms as well as platforms are biased towards attributing it more towards them. So for a brand or for the company which is building this business, I think attribution so that you can deploy your investment into the right media channel is a continued complexity. And the second complexity, I would say, is control on funnels. Most of the marketing is moving to smart and machine learning based marketing now, where a Google product or a Facebook product is actually self-defining, and who are the consumers that you should show your communications to. And if you're trying to introduce your own targeting measures, it actually is relatively less rewarding and more penalizing sort of in terms of the way their technology sort of works. So in that whole scheme of things, how do you run a funnel which is an awareness, consideration, conversion funnel, because it might be showing a conversion creative to an awareness audience, etc., is another complexity that I think we deal with at day-to-day basis.
Wow, I think all our practitioners here do learn and understand that these are the challenges brands like them face, and maybe if you have solutions, you should be thinking about it and helping them address it. Now, I'm going to ask you one more question. I totally do want, if anyone really would want to ask Varun something, I'm going to leave a couple of minutes. Just one last question before we open it for audience Q&A. Okay, Varun, the thing is, you're a business leader. You're very, your journey has been pretty, marketer-led to business, and you've kind of really sort of nurtured the startup like a baby and come a long way, and obviously there's a lot to look up to, there's a lot to learn, right? Now here in the room we have primarily, we have practitioners who are helping brands like you and large brands, and there are practitioners and there are marketers who are really, like we were talking in the afternoon, you weren't in then. We were talking in the afternoon, the need to think like an insurgent all the time, the need to be agile, the need to really enable reverse mentoring, right? So the point being that if you had to give some tips and some advice to our audience here today in terms of what should they look out for, what is it that really could count in terms of making an impact with their customers, what is it that you would like to share?
I think the two pieces of advice would be, one, measure what matters. Right? And I would say, firstly, define what matters. Right? Because that's where a lot of us are going wrong and chasing certain vanity metrics which are not as important and they don't matter as much when you're building a brand or a business, right? So define what matters, right? And then make sure that you're measuring it. Right? Marketing continues to be a science, right? More than an art, at least in my view, right? And hence, that's the first step, which is measure what matters. And secondly, I would say focus on the consumer, not on competition. Right? The more you will focus on consumer, the more you will talk to them, listen to them, understand where they're moving, and the more successfully you'll be able to serve them. Right? So I think those two would be my pieces of advice.
Fantastic. I think you just were spot on, like the 2 points which matter the most. Well done. So before I let you go, I do want to ask our audience and our delegates here, our practitioners, if they'd like to ask Varun any questions, the mic can be sent across. And I think here's a question from Rohit, who's also our managing director at MMA APAC, and we'll take his question first.
Thank you. That was very, very insightful. Both of you, it was a very good session and very eloquently put your journey.
Yes.
And I wish there were a lot more startups in the room to listen to your journey and be part of it.
We'll circulate.
So that they can, you should definitely
It'll
circulate.
go a lot further.
I have a question which I don't know many people would ask. It's not a business question. What does Honsa mean and what does that logo mean? And what does that logo mean? You've spoken about sustainability, purpose.
Yeah.
What does that mean in all of this?
So Honasa stands for honest, natural, safe. Honasa. And so that's the heart of this company. And that's what we started this company for. And those 3 words actually define the spirit that we stand for, right? So I think
what does that logo decipher?
So the logo is Tree of Life, right?
Wow.
Because for us, again, this was a journey which started with parenthood, right? And at least on this earth, if there is one thing that decides or defines life, right, is giving birth to new life, right? So I think Tree of Life for us defined that journey of the world moving forward and, us starting on a new journey.
Great. I was intrigued because I went online to look for Honasa. I didn't get a single answer. And that's why I asked you. Thank you.
Some content for you to take forward.
Hey, it's not a secret anymore now,
Anyone else would like to ask a question? Maybe we have time for just 1 or 2. So if you can raise your hand and we'll get the mic to you. Anyone else for any questions? Else I'll conclude with one because I do have one. Anyone? Okay, I get the chance. Okay, Varun, this whole conversation was about balancing Sniper and Bazooka techniques in your business, right? So, whilst you gave some great tips, I want you to leave maybe just 1 or 2 tips, right, on how do you think the Sniper way and when do you not think the Sniper way? Would you like to throw some light on that?
I think horses for courses. So different life stages of your brand's journey require you to deploy a different kind of media inputs. And when you're very young and you're just testing PMF, and you need to be as as sniper orientation as possible. And you need to think very sharply, you need to target very sharply, you need to read into very, very small cohorts and see what is working and what's not. To a zone where, for example, Mamaearth is today, then you need to look for where is the next set of consumers going to come from, who you want to recruit. What is it that they're consuming in terms of content? Which kind of media has the highest level of affinity for that? And which is your go-to-market or distribution medium, or which they're buying in? And a combination of that should define your new sort of media and marketing strategy, which probably would have some variance and some combination of both the bazooka and the sniper mix that you will need to deploy. So I think as the life stage changes, and as your, as we used to refer to them as jobs to be done for the brand changes, I think your media mix and your sniper and bazooka mix kind of change.